numerous individuals on the road. Do you want me to take those out? Take them out. Impact.
I got caught up in terror charges because I went paintballing. We got arrested 1st September 2006. Some of the people I was with were a person named Abu Abdullah, Mohammed Hamid. Mohammed Hamid was a regular at Speaker's Corner. Abu Abdullah always used to speak on the CNN.
What was your reaction, for example, on September the 11th?
Every sincere Muslim was pleased because America deserved the punch in the nose. You know, as many...
3,000 people died that day.
3,000 people was like a drop in the ocean compared to the millions of Muslims that have been killed.
Being of the same age group as them, they seem to figure me as a player amongst those people. And so when they got pulled up, they pulled me up. I mean, at the time of my arrest, I hadn't seen them for 6 months. I was charged under the 2000 Terrorism Act for providing weapons training and receiving weapons training and or explosives and or chemical and nuclear weapons, which is a bit of a mouthful and it's a bit of a joke really, but I mean it's a bit of a sick joke really. They told me that I was charged for the providing weapons training and receiving weapons training because I went paintballing and that I wasn't going to play paintballing for fun, I was training to go to Afghanistan and Iraq.
Young men paintballing were filmed for a BBC programme called Don't Panic, I'm Islamic.
It wasn't my title actually, it was the BBC's decision to call it that in the end.
Today, these images were shown in court at the trial of 5 men charged with undertaking terror training and other offences.
One of the characters wore traditional Islamic dress from the period of the Prophet Muhammad, and you know his name was Mohammed Hamid, and he used to joke about how he was called Osama bin Laden.
Osama is a beautiful name, right? And it is a beautiful name. Right, and I turn around and tell a lot of people my name is Osama bin Laden. So I've been London.
We filmed the paintballing, and the whole joke was that this appeared like terrorist training. To my shock and horror, this footage was used by the prosecution to claim that Mohammed Hamid was leading a group of terrorists in Britain. I still don't actually know.
MI5 obviously found it serious.
Yes, but I'm not sure what skills that one gains on a Sunday afternoon paintballing can be applied to, for example, putting bombs on the underground.
You know what happened on the tubes? Right? How many altogether? 4 people, shaheed. Allah wa alam. I have to say this as well. But 4 people got shaheed. Right? How many people did they take out? 52. That's not even a breakfast for me.
52 dead on the London Underground, that's breakfast for me. That is a pretty worrying sort of statement, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I think if he's committed a crime, certainly it's one of bravado and hubris. He rather regarded himself as someone of quite importance within this group. But I think the reality of this, and I think what is of the most concern today, is that British Muslims will feel that if they speak their mind, because after all, what message was so dangerous? The message that he was criticising British foreign policy in Muslim lands, that if you actually have that message, and if you speak openly about that message, you're in danger of ending up in jail. Now, I think he was sentenced to a minimum of 7 years in jail.
Now I know he's not a problem. Is his mouth big? Yes. Is that how he is? Yes. Is he a terrorist? Definitely not. And a lot of people know him, and a lot of people know his situation. And I feel for him and his situation, but all I hope is that he holds his head up and does what he needs to do and gets back out to rejoin society, because I know that there is love in his heart. I can understand part of it because they've been force-fed a diet in the media of Muslim extremism, Muslim terrorism, Muslim this, and that these people are on the streets, and so I can understand that somebody's going to be arrested. But it's a real shock when you're the one that's arrested.
The Muslim world must get this act together.
The atmosphere of fear that has been created successfully by the government, using very carefully, very skillfully the media and the public have all been turned to believe that the threat of terrorism, and I've sat with some chiefs of police in West Yorkshire, for example, and other places, where they have said blatantly to the people sitting there in the middle of Bradford or Leeds that you, as the audience, are facing the greatest threat of terrorism this country has ever had. And he can sit there in front of them and say this, and even though anybody can ask the question, when was the last time there was a bomb that went off in Bradford or Leeds? And until somebody actually says that, because he's a man entrusted, or supposedly entrusted, with an extremely important job of protecting the public, people believe him. They must think that this man has access to knowledge, to information that we don't, so we must trust him. And what happened when we did that, when we imparted that trust to people in power before? They took us into war in Iraq, they took us into war in Afghanistan, they tortured people, all based upon trust, and it was all lies. A million plus marched on the streets of Britain, which is unprecedented. British people have never marched in that number for anything, and the government still refused to look at what it was doing.
And I know many people are disappointed and hurt and angry. I know many believe profoundly that the action that we took was wrong. And I do not at all disrespect anyone who disagrees with me. I just ask one thing. Attack my decision, but at least understand why I took it and why I would take the same decision again.
You know, I knew the invasion of Iraq was going to happen, and I knew that protesting was not going to stop it. And the only thing that I really just was at a point in my life where enough is enough. You know, I saw that as potentially the beginning of World War III, and it may very well be. I felt the only way that we could possibly stop that invasion was to make it politically untenable, and the only way that that would have been possible would be to get enough Western citizens over there at places that are supposed to be protected by the Geneva Conventions, and you know, I stand by that to this day.
You obviously realise that in the last war, Saddam Hussein had human shields, Westerners. It didn't stop any action that took place, and you don't really expect any action should the US and Britain go ahead to be halted because you're there.
Actually, I fully do. In fact, I understand that we, the people, have the power to take back our governments and have them truly represent our interests. We are going to be down there in the hundreds at the least, if not thousands, and I have called for a massive migration to Iraq, and the response that I'm getting is incredible, nothing short of a miracle, and I would be amazed if we have less than thousands.
Was it successful? In its big goals, the Human Shield Action was not successful. If it was successful in anything, it was protecting 6 sites that were not bombed during shock and awe, which was a pretty significant achievement. But more importantly is the hope that people will realize that we do have immense power. If we use it, exercise it, we can achieve anything we want, including the end of war. As a father, it's even more clear, if we have any one responsibility in this world, it is to hand over this world in a better state than we inherited it. And if we don't achieve that, then I think we fail in our primary mission. So being an activist to me is synonymous with being a parent, a real parent.
These were actually taken in Iraq. They were under the camouflage netting. That uniform wouldn't fit round his arm when he died. He got quite a good build, so that was him in his uniform. One of the things he used to say to us, almost every time he came home, well, you can sleep easy in your bed because we're protecting you, we're guarding you, so you don't need to worry. And when he went to Iraq, he believed that there was some sort of threat to this country, and when after he died and I got involved in this campaign and I found out the things that were happening, that's when I found out that it were a lie, but luckily Sean died believing that we were defending his country.
At the service to the Iraq War a few weeks ago that he would not shake his hand because those hands have blood on it, including the blood of his son Sean. Please welcome Peter Brearley.
And you know, I started out as because Sean died in Iraq. Before all this started, I were actually ill and were off work for quite a while, and we had a Muslim family lived not next, a couple of doors down from us, and every single day they would knock on my door and bring me food because they knew that I were out of work. I couldn't work, so I didn't have much money, and that's the community thing, that the community spirit that is being destroyed. Where I used to work, I've sat and talked about the Quran, and how it isn't a right lot different to our Bible. You learn things like that. I never knew that. Jesus is in Quran. This week, a soldier died in Afghanistan. I looked in my paper. That soldier that in Afghanistan is 11 lines on page 11. It's not news anymore. People just expect it. So we don't want this happening to anybody else. These troops need to come out. They'll end up negotiating for a pull-out anyway, so why not negotiate tomorrow? They can never win in Afghanistan. It's an unwinnable war. So bring the troops out tomorrow. Thanks everybody for coming out. We've been to a memorial service. Everybody had been given a A4 size booklet, the service order with all the hymns and everything in. And the back 2 pages were all the soldiers who died in Iraq. And Tony Blair were actually signing autographs on them. So I went across and I said to him, Mr. Blair, and he turned around and put his hand out, and I said to him, Mr. Blair, I don't want to shake your hand because you've got the blood of my son on it. You've got the blood of another 178 soldiers on it from in Iraq. You've got the blood of countless thousand Iraqi people in it, on your hands, and I don't want to shake your hand. And one day you will have to answer for what you did.
You're the hypocrites. Almighty God's not a hypocrite. He's going to pin you down to every word you said. And if you say you believe in God, and yet you've lived as if you're the devil's own, your judgment will be far worse than anybody who's lived without that belief.
250,000 people died in Iraq. 40,000 people died in Afghanistan. But that's collateral damage. But when there's a bombing right here at home, we're the ones that we say are innocent. We're not innocent.
Our war on terror begins with Al-Qaeda, but it does not end there. It will not end until every terrorist group of global reach has been found, stopped, and defeated.
Teaching there, you're south of the river at the moment. But you're miles away. All right, well, let's just do your best, would you? Have you got a sat-nav? Do you know where you're going?
Yes, of course, yes, I do.
Okay.
Cheers, thank you.
Much.
What's up? You're late?
Getting a bit berated there, brother. Sorry about that.
You're late, Ken?
Yeah, London traffic. Here you go.
What's the interview about? What are you expecting from this panorama thing? Why did they want to speak to you?
I'm a person of interest at this point. You know, I had a role in disarming a couple of Israeli commandos, and I've been specifically named by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, as a terrorist. And I think they'll probably ask me some questions regarding that and how the attack occurred and so on and so forth. Panorama does some pretty good programs, but I've also seen Panorama do stuff where the propaganda it's intelligent propaganda. It's very, very clever oftentimes, but not necessarily a great testament to the truth.
Murderers. Of course, this is nothing compared to what others have gotten. Palestinians get this every day.
The war on terror is a farce and an insult to the intelligence of all of us who want to see a better world. The idea that you could somehow carry out wars of aggression halfway around the world, killing people in mass, and somehow solve the problem of terrorism is a farce, an absolute farce. Of course, we, in fact, by carrying out the so-called war on terror, are recruiting more people to violently resist than any other single thing we're doing. And if you understand the world the way I do, you realize actually that's the goal. The goal of the war on terror is to not only create more so-called terrorism, but justify your own state-sponsored terrorism.
The foreign policy issues can clearly be seen at their worst point when we see some of the people who allegedly carried out the London bombings saying in the video that was released after the bombing that they are doing this action because of what's happening in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Your democratically elected governments continuously perpetuate atrocities against my people all over the world, and your support of them makes you directly responsible, just as I am directly responsible for protecting and avenging my Muslim brothers and sisters.
Murder radicalizes people. Killing, slaughter, oppression, genocide radicalizes people.
Right, man. There was not a war on terror. There was a war on Iraq and a war on Afghanistan. And by calling it a war on terror, you could justify any action you took against anybody. You say, oh, that's the war on terror.
Sometimes the word protest is used, but this is not a protest, this is a demand. A demand that British troops be withdrawn and that American troops be withdrawn so that the people of Afghanistan can control their own country.
We hear about British soldiers who've been killed, but you don't hear about other countries. You don't know, you never hear the names of Afghans who've been killed or Iraqis who were killed, or about their families or anything of that kind. They are just the enemy. They are terrorists. And the word terrorist dehumanizes the people you're fighting.
Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.
The Muslims who got involved in terrorist activity saw their own countries being invaded and attacked. They saw their religion being denounced and mocked. And they said, we will not accept it. We will put up a fight.
When I seen on TV, right, Muslims suffering in Iraq, Muslims suffering in Afghanistan, Muslims targeted in Palestine, Muslims targeted in Pakistan, Muslim in Chechnya. So I was thinking, hold on a minute, why? I mean, I'm a Muslim, so I was thinking, hold on a minute, why is our religion being targeted all the time? You know what I mean? So it got me angry, and I'm thinking, you know what? You know, there's an agenda with the West with Muslims. So it kind of like, you know, it got to me, and it kind of built a desire in me to find out what's going on and do something about it. Okay, these are the kind of meals we've got in our community. It says Free Gaza, and it's got the Palestinian flag there. And on the left hand side you see a child throwing his shoe at Israeli Apache helicopters who are bombarding his house. We feel the suffering of the Palestinian people. I mean, from what we've heard and what we know a little bit of, the people are suffering there. So what we want to know is why they're suffering and what is the Western world doing about their suffering, you know, and we want to cause more and more awareness to people. That mural is not only for Muslims, it's for people, non-Muslims as well. Some of them I don't even know, they only see what they see on TV, you know, what the media tells them. When I first seen stuff like this, it did anger me, and I was thinking, you know, what's going on, you know what I mean, why are these Muslim brothers and sisters suffering? And I did get angry, but you know, then I had people like, you know what I mean, who, you know, people from a religious background. I mean, I didn't have a religious background, you know what I mean. I was just a stupid wild kid on the street who thought, yeah, what's this? What can I do about it? But alhamdulillah, when I sat in the groups, you know, practicing Muslims, right, and they told, you know, the way they showed me this picture, I understand it from a different level. You know what I mean? My religion does not promote violence. You know what I mean? My religion does not say go out there and kill people. You know what I mean? I was working. I left my work and everything, and I went there just to see what's happening in Gaza. And when I see with my own eyes, you know what I mean, the way people are suffering there and the way everything is happening, and it made me realize that, you know what the media completely tells you, it's not true. You know what I mean? And who's suffering there? It's not Hamas, it's not no terrorist group. It's the average, you know, people living, you know, normal people living there, trying to live their normal lives, like mothers, women, children. I've seen loads and loads of children there out on the streets, you know what I mean? You know, with no clothing, you know, barely clothing, you know. And when I did see this happening there, it did upset me, and I want to do something about it. How you been doing today?
Alright, not too bad.
Alhamdulillah.
£100 first, sort of thing. Alhamdulillah.
That's good, man. Alhamdulillah. From the shop, we want to raise money to fund orphans. We want to raise money from the shop to fund widows. We want to raise money from the shop to provide clean drinking water. We want to rebuild houses and stuff like that. Basically, just every day-to-day need and requirements of people. That's what we want to do.
One of the main forces that has been used by politicians, and the media have lapped this up since 9/11, is that the West is somehow under threat from Islamic civilization, that there is a great sort of risk that our lives, in London is somehow under threat from sort of the Taliban, that somehow they're going to enter London, force my wife to wear full veil, somehow my whole life will be radically changed. In fact, that's one of the many big lies, as I call them, of the post-9/11 era, because really it's Muslim civilization that is under threat. It's being undermined by the West, the power of the Western media, of MTV, the Western militaries that are occupying Muslim lands, the Muslim leaders who have been corrupted and debased. Islam is seen as a dark, threatening, rather primitive kind of faith. That's the way it's presented in the British media largely. Those are the stereotypes. Even as something as so simple as a female head covering, it's seen as something linked to so many other things: violence, aggression, suppression of women. It's become something that seems to be sort of represent this whole global conflict and a clash of civilizations.
We want to protect ourselves. We want to just keep our beauty to those who can look at it, which are our husbands, for example. We want to, because the beauty of a woman lies in the hair. How much money do we spend on hair? How much money on hairdresser? On whatever products? And I used to work in the beauty industry, and I know how much they are spending. We cover ourselves for our future husband, or for those who will be deserving to see our beauty, like a jewel, like a diamond.
It's a reminder of God wherever you are. And if you're dressing like this, you have to look at your actions, because if you're sitting on the bus swearing and everything, people are going to look at you like, oh, you're Muslim and you're swearing like this. Why are you acting this way?
A lot of people think when you wear the hijab, you become secluded from the world, and it's not true.
You have no life,
You have no life, basically.
Or you wear it inside. Some people have told me, do you wear that inside?
A lot of sisters, I myself, I still go out with my friends, and then some of them are niqabis, and we still have fun. Just because you wear the hijab doesn't mean you stop having fun, because we're still youth. We want to go out, you want to go bowling and go ice skating, all the activities that normal youth do, you do it. The hijab doesn't restrict you in that sense. It restricts you in the sense that, don't go free mixing, don't drink alcohol, don't pick up bad habits like smoking, that sort of thing. But that's like moral stuff, isn't it?
But do you want to be sitting in a pub anywhere wearing a hijab?
Exactly. But you wouldn't, because at the end of the day, it restricts you, but in a good way, because it's helping you in the sense of purifying your soul and giving you a purpose to life.
Every time I meet a sister, you just connect with them straight away. And you just got that common ground with them, and you know that when you're with them, you're not wasting time, you're not talking about gossiping and everything most of the time. And it's just, I'm blessed to have all my sisters. It's really nice.
Many young people are turning to Islam or returning to Islam in various capacities. One might see that more visually with the take-up of the hijab or other types of overtly religious dress. The question of why this is happening has been certainly something that's fascinated me as a researcher and as somebody engaged with various communities, including the Muslim population of Europe. All religions are often places of rest and refuge. They also can be very empowering. They give senses of belonging, a higher level of meaning to life, which of course are very important within strange situations as the ones that we're in now as regards Muslim community and diversity. We see multiculturalism, for example, under a lot of attack from political levels. And I wouldn't say that the wearing of hijab or religious dress isn't enmeshed with wanting to also show that you're proud to be religious and wanting to uphold those values of multiculturalism, cultural diversity and democracy by showing that I choose and I will dress in any which manner I might please.
You know, when you dress modestly, ultimately our men will treat us with a lot of honor and respect. Now, of course, if you're talking about anybody that doesn't know about Islam and is quite anti-Islam, of course you have the passing comments, you have these kind of things. But overall, if you're naturally kind to people, if you try to say hello, to try to give your seat up in the bus, things like that, people will actually treat you like a normal person. They will actually don't see the veil anymore.
I find it absolutely difficult to speak to someone wearing niqab, and I'll be honest.
You shouldn't.
So why? Because I can't see. I'm the person. I'm the type of person. When you speak to someone, you need to see their facial expressions. Of course you do.
What would you say?
How do you understand if someone's sad or happy or?
Don't actually the test because I'm a very smiley person. Normally I'm quite bubbly and I'm really smiley. And I've done the test in the bus because I thought, okay, now I'm wearing the niqab and I wonder how I'm going to smile to people. And I still do. And when I smile, you see my eyes are smiling and people has responded to me.
I'm saying I'm a Muslim. I'm a Muslim and I wear a hijab and I'm finding it difficult. Imagine you're living in someone else's country and people do not understand Islam. And you having a barrier, then you tell me.
Someone else's country. This is our country. I was raised here. I was born here, and I was raised here, and I'm British. For you to say you're wearing a niqab in somebody else's country, yeah, then if you say that to a sister, automatically you're gonna make that sister feel like, hold on, I'm somebody else. I'm in somebody else's country, and they're gonna be thinking,
I'm not in my own country. I say that. I'm treating this as another country that I'm visiting.
all of us sisters in our own unique way, we get on a daily basis, we get little insults, little arguments, just little things that prove to you day after day that you don't truly belong in this society, because constantly our beliefs are being oppressed. But the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may the peace and blessings be upon him, said the blessings lies in the struggle.
Personally, I'll only defend Islam. I would not defend culture. And I think nowadays we see that people follow culture and not Islam. Let people understand Islam as a whole before actually making people understand the culture behind it.
Personally, I don't think I'd ever wear a niqab. The kind of person that I am, I don't think if I especially that I want to go into teaching, if I was to wear the niqab, I think communication.
You should never say never to sister.
You can never say never. That is so true.
That's what I used to say.
But that's my own personal opinion. When you're talking about it is not the real Islam, I agree with you. But then, it is not my decision to tell people wear the niqab or don't wear the niqab, because people have their own free will.
I'm not wearing this niqab and this hijab because of my husband, because of my father, because of my grandfather. No, not at all. And actually just pointing at the sister's opinion as well, the niqab, I don't find it is cultural. I'm actually French myself, so which culture is that coming from? But it's more because the wives of the Prophet ﷺ used to wear it. Yeah. And also, it actually came into my mind one day. I don't know where it actually came from, but when I actually saw more and more men coming out of the mosque, I feel more and more shy, and I started to want to cover my face, and this is how it started.
We've got other things that we should defend about Islam. We're forgetting.
So you believe what they put to the forefront. If the niqab is the current debate, which it is, and it's a very heated debate, then obviously the Muslims will stand ground and say no. If you're gonna bring this forward, if you're gonna say this is the debate,
when you go defend it in the courts, and when you defend it in this country, don't say this is part of Islam. Say this is my freedom.
No, I believe that it is part of Islam. It is the same manner in which you believe that it's not part of Islam. I believe it's part of Islam. Reason being is because all the wives of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon them, wore it. And the companions, their wives wore it too. If you believe that it is not, sister, then you should be able to respect another person's opinion and say, if that is your opinion, like you said, you're a Shia, I'm a Sunni. Maybe that's where we differ. Maybe that's where the difference
That's what I was saying before. There are so many sects in Islam. Not all Muslims, nearly 1.8 billion, however, not all of them are going to agree with each other. You being a Shia, me being a Sunni, there are going to be things that we're not going to agree on. I would never tell a Shia person, you can't do that, blah, 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 because I'm not a scholar, I don't know the religion well enough to make them kind of distinctions. But what I'm saying is, it should all help the sisters who wear the niqabs, to have the right to wear the niqab, because that's her personal choice. Wearing a niqab or not wearing a niqab, that is something that you decide for yourself, if you want to take yourself from an extra level or whatever it is that you feel comfortable doing. My problem is when a secular society is telling me how I should not practice my own religion, even though the niqab is, most of the scholars would say that it's absolutely not compulsory, and it's only a few scholars that do see it as compulsory. That has got nothing to do with the secular society. If I'm a citizen who abides by the law and I'm paying my taxes, it says in the Constitution that no one has a right to tell you how to practice your religion so long as you're practicing it peacefully. Yes. So from time they're going against their own constitution. This is why when they take it to the high courts, it's not going to stand. And it's my right. There will always be ignorant people who don't want to understand, who just see diversity and are against that diversity. If you go back in history, people pick on the Jews, people have picked on Protestants, on Catholics, whoever it is that says that is looking to practice their religion have been demonized. It's not just Muslims. So if it's put in, that is why it is put in the Constitution that people should practice their faith. I could be a tree hugging, fairy singing, dancing doolally if that's my religion, But if it's in my constitution that I can be that way without harming someone, that is the whole problem. Europeans are missing their own tradition. From time you stay quiet about whether or not people should wear niqab or not, the next day we're like, we don't want you to be in a hijab. From time they say to someone you can't wear a cross, are you telling me they're not going to tell them you can't wear a hijab?
We started Islam Channel in 2004 after 9/11 and the war on terror, and suddenly Islam became the main topic in the media. We follow the newspapers, the media, what they write, what they say about Muslims and Islam. Here we ask the public to support our efforts, because we are free to air, so we can't have subscription. What we came up with a scheme of voluntary subscription, so people, they voluntarily subscribe to the channel, and we have thousands and thousands of people subscribing.
I noticed you have a lot of women working here, and many people suggest in Islam that women should stay at home. You don't reflect that here in the States, do you?
Islam never said, there is no single word in Islam that says women stay at home. We are more than 200 people involved in the channel. Maybe half of them are women. Nearly also 50% of the senior management of the channel are women as well. We have Buddhists, we have Hindus, we have Christians, we have people of no faith working with us, and many of them are senior level as well. There is Islam that was revealed to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and there is Islam that is in the minds of the media. So they have a frame and tick boxes. Box one, woman is oppressed in Islam. Second box, Muslims are not rational. Third box, Muslims are against democracy and so on. Fourth box, Muslims are terrorists and extremists and so on. So if anything that does not fit that box is not welcome within the mainstream media. So they are not bothered. They don't want to know anything about what we are doing unless someone says, Islam Channel did something extreme or Islam Channel did something, then you will find it splashed all over the media.
I would rather just like that than...
What about women in Saudi Arabia?
You cannot define Christianity by what the IRA are doing. You cannot define all of Islam, what Saudi Arabia is doing. I used to live in Saudi Arabia up until I was 8 years old. And living there, I experienced that the Arabs have a very strict culture. I'm Somali myself, and Somali women before the civil war in my own country, even now really, they can go and come as they please. Like, they have their religion, they don't really listen to the men, they're very independent, they love their husbands, they have their husbands, but the husband can't really tell them to do anything. But living in Saudi Arabia, where they follow the religion, but then after the religion comes this grey area where everyone's confused. I mean, is this really the religion or is this Saudi culture? And the more you investigate it, the more you realise Do you know this? I can't find this in the Quran and the Sunnah. Obviously, this must be just coming from you now.
People see in Saudi Arabia, they say this is where the house of the Lord, yeah? So of course they're going to say this is Islam. And when they say they restrict them from driving, of course they're going to say Islam.
That's what I've said.
When they say they have to stay in the homes and look after kids, they're going to say it's in Islam. We understand the Islam because we understand the Quran, we understand the Sunnah, we understand the Islam itself. But these people who are not educated do not understand it whatsoever. All they have is media.
How can someone know if I'm oppressed or not if they're not in my shoes?
It really, really, really aggravates me that a so-called specialist in Islam, who might be a white anthropological female or whatever, a professor of Islam, will come and sit there and say, you know what, I believe the Muslim women feel this way. Why don't you ask me? I'm not alive, I'm not a dinosaur. Hello, I still exist. Do you know what I mean? You don't need to go to an historical archive to find out how I used to live. I'm right here in front of you. Why don't you just ask me?
The banning of the burqa is just another blatant exposure of the lie of freedom that we have. If we are free, then why are we threatened by other people's cultural values and way of living their lives? We can get into political debates as to whether or not women are being oppressed, and there is no doubt women have been oppressed in Western society and they are oppressed in non-Western society. However, it's not our business to tell someone else what to do in their land, and as far as wearing a burqa is concerned, there are much more important problems in our world than focusing attention on that. It's a diversion from more important matters. We need to focus, and the focus, in my opinion, should be human rights, and we should start with Palestine. Hi, Alice. On the way, but boy, oh boy, we're over a half hour away.
If they say my black hair, or I am walking with my lady.
Your lady?
Yes.
You must be
my
walking.
wife.
Yeah, oh, you've got a wife?
Yes, I got 2 wives.
2?
Alhamdulillah.
2?
And she is wearing a hijab or wearing a abba. They're staring at me. Oh shit.
Yes, I do believe there is a real threat of Islamic terrorism in Britain because we've already experienced it.
In Israel, Jewish people, they kill the Palestinian. That's easy and simple. That's why. And the people here, they sending their troops to Afghanistan and Iraq and kill the Muslim. And maybe crazy man here, he don't have a mind, he will do bad things.
They read all sorts of rubbish. These people are just brainwashed by Islamic idiots.
Every action, there is a reaction. That's a symbol. If you hit me, I hit you.
Oh.
That's it. That's answer your question.
We're friends. Look at this. Ready? Look at this. Here, he's a Muslim and I'm a Jew. And he's my brother.
Brother, be honest with you. In our country and most the Muslim country, I teach my son and my dad teach me, to hate the Jewish people.
People want to defend what is under attack. Now, while the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and so on are not entirely to do with an attack on religion, that certainly is an element on them, and I would not be surprised if that has played a part in the reinvigoration of Islamic practices.
Pakistani tea cup.
Is it English?
Yeah. I don't know how to make a Pakistani tea, brother. But this one. See, and this shows that it's not just women that do stuff around the home. I reckon between the year of maybe 2003 to 2005, maybe a lot of people came to Islam around this area, as in South London, because a lot of maybe people who were looked up to in the streets became Muslims, and so they thought, okay, this man used to be on this thing, he's on this thing now, so but I'm down with this.
Well, a lot of young youths who came in at that time, they kind of brought not the faith into disrepute, but there was a lot of thing about the Muslim boys.
There ain't no Muslim boys. There ain't no gang called the Muslim boys, but
What about the media? The media suggested there was.
Yeah, the media said there was Muslim words, but that's because a lot of gang youth or people who used to be in gangs were converting to Islam, and they still had the gang culture. At that time, there was the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan. Our interpretation at that time was we're in a state of war. Okay, so certain things for the non-Muslims are halal for us, lawful for us, such as money, women, even their blood, according to how we interpreted it. We thought if we're cleaning up the streets, we'll get a drug dealer, maybe take his drugs, throw it away, get the money, give a certain percentage to the mosque.
Is that where they got their money from?
Give a certain percent to the mosque and then split it amongst whomever, and that's lawful for you to do. But as you learn, you know, these things was just misinterpreted, you know what I mean?
These young Muslims these new Muslims I should say, it shows that there's a potential danger because they're vulnerable. They would listen to basically any Muslim. They could get fed the wrong information, and as you said, we used to do those bad things because that's how we interpreted it. And that shows that Islam is not extremism, is actually the solution for it, because the fact that these people didn't study Islam, they came up with these extreme views. But when you actually studied the real Islam, then they got rid of that extremism.
If you're going to abuse someone consistently, if you're going to take away their right to live a normal life, you're going to take their food, their shelter, you're going to abuse them, you're going to try and enslave them, right? Then obviously they will react, and that reaction is some tools that people use. Yes, it's wrong, but can you blame them?
You don't blame them. You don't say it's right, and you don't say this is part of Islam.
No, it's not right. Definitely not. From when, like we say, we go back to the Quran, and if it says, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it is wrong to kill yourself, it is wrong to hurt others, like the sister said, the old, the poor, the young, do you know what I'm saying? As the whole of humanity, and if you kill one person, it's like you killed the whole of humanity.
They get these brothers who have no knowledge of Islam, who they make them feel guilty that they haven't been practicing their religion, that they've gone off the path, that they tell them, look, you've been bad for so long, the only way you're going to be excellent, go from zero to hero, is if, be a saint, literally, is if you go and commit suicide and take as much non-believers with you. That's what they do. They don't go to the brother who's practicing the religion, who knows right from wrong. They go to the brother who's in the student union bar and is drinking, and they go, brother, look at you, look how you've lowered yourself. Make him play on the emotional strings, to the point where that person feels that they have no self-worth in front of Allah, that all they can do is go to jihad.
Most Muslims, new Muslims, all they're concerned about is my faith is weak, and when my faith is weak, I'm doing bad things, I'm displeasing my creator. I need to increase my faith, and this is one of the reasons why we get together as well.
It comes up now and again, we might be sitting there watching TV and the news comes on and something was going on, then conversation comes up. We don't sit and plot and plan like that about these things.
But they do say, like this would be a classic sort of cell, if you like, because this is how they say that these groups operate in groups of 4. And these guys get together, sit down like this, and then someone radical spreads the word, and the cell.
Oh, that's me, innit?
There's no terror cell organisation. Do you know what I mean?
It's exactly the same thing. I was saying, with Al Qaeda, where they say that it's Osama bin Laden is in charge of it, and they try to make it sound like an organised crime unit, a network around the world. Al Qaeda, it's just how it's like they try to alienate 4 or 5 certain individuals if they're sitting there thinking, they're plotting to blow up something or something like that.
What about Abu Hamza?
Abu Hamza, mashallah, I haven't got a bad thing to say about the brother. I used to go to a few of his lectures. I used to go to Finsbury Park every Friday. During these times, they were trying to say he was a terrorist and doing these things and exciting racial hatred and murder, and he was doing this and doing that. I mean, they even locked the mosque and we had to pray outside. We were surrounded by MI5, MI6, local police. They were recording everyone, recording the lecture.
I saw Abu Hamza being used to sell this war on terror.
So that led me to Finsbury Park, where I was basically filming for 3 years. There was a moment that everybody knew that Blair and Bush were going to go into Iraq, and at that sort of moment, I knew that it was a choice for me between. I was squatting at the time. I was quite leading a very unstable lifestyle, and it's a choice for me between just lying down stone watching bombs drop in, or trying to film what I could where I was and to try and do something. They were very, very insular, very, very separated, dangerously separated. But I was there I felt like I was there to help, in some ways, just help British people not wanting to blow up.
This is in effect the front line in the battle for the hearts and minds of young British Muslims.
The media in Finsbury Park, I really got that one by being there. That was really, really interesting, because there was, you can't explain how much there was a conspiracy of hate between the media, who thought that the Muslims were terrorists, and the Muslims who thought that the media were Zionists. And there was me jumping around in the middle with my little camera, looking for an absolutely non-existent peace process.
The vast majority of Muslims will find shaking hands preaching today deeply offensive, especially...
They were doing pieces to the camera about what Abu Hamza was saying before he said it.
Dan, has he said anything I understand in English yet? He actually hasn't said a word in English yet, and I'm sure it's going to be deeply offensive when he does.
Do you speak Arabic? Do you speak Arabic? I didn't think they were deliberately twisting things, but one thing that never got across was Hamza. He always said that he didn't agree with suicide bombing in this country. I thought that was negligent, not putting that on television.
We cannot support those who are ignorant and try to vent themselves using easy target, vulnerable target, which they have nothing to do with the war. They don't even know what the war is about. They just want to stop war for the sake of war, which we can respect that and endorse that. The only Islamic way to tackle this point is basically for Muslims to enjoy the good and forbid the evil within their communities. To ask people to come and learn about the religion and not to actually abuse our history, to abuse the verses of the Quran, which says don't kill a woman, don't kill a child, don't kill an elderly, don't kill a disabled, don't kill those who worship, don't destroy churches, don't destroy synagogues, don't destroy mosques. This is all in our religion, and it's clear verses, so we can escape from it.
I think those guys, I think they've got that on camera, but I think they didn't see it on their own film, because it wasn't, they want a black and white story, they don't want a grey story, and there was greyness to the story as well, like, you know.
And if it was not these Zionist media, the people of this country, they would have informed themselves.
More time, his lectures on Fridays would be, and that did mention the government, would be how the government has failed society. Why is there prostitution? Why are there single mothers? Why are there poor people? Why are these certain people? It's because the government's failed them.
Jesus, this is dusting off a few memories here, like. Well, 35,000 say boot out hook. That's brilliant. 20k right hook. Yeah, you're paying for Hamza's trial. Get him out of here. He's a monstrosity. I sat through the whole trial, and Hamza was tried on things which he said in the context of Bosnia, but he was judged in the context of 7/7, because 7/7 happened a day, 2 days into his trial, and his trial was put off for a few days, and they started it again. And everything which they dragged out from, which he'd said in the 90s, was in the context of Bosnia, when Muslims were getting killed by Serbians. He was found guilty based on that, like, you know. I mean, who he was, I don't know. Whether he did these things, whether he said on the street not to blow up, and then behind the scenes was saying to people, kill them all, I don't know. But those journalists who've made a lot of money reporting him, they don't know either.
Without wanting to take away the media's freedom to actually report on very important incidents relating to Abu Hamza that need reporting, it was the way in which it fitted into the whole discourse around Muslims and extremism that was perhaps worrying, and that played a part in demonising Muslim communities more generally.
In UK, you have people who own 30% of the print media. The media really, especially the print media, is owned by others, except The Guardian, but is owned, and it says what the bosses really want them to say. So that is a big blow to the British media. As for the TVs, again, who owns the TV stations and the radio stations? The BBC is not really settled as I can see it. Sometimes you get some good programs and sometimes you get some biased programs. The British media are really singing the song of the war and singing the song of Bush and Blair, what they used to say.
I mean, they're able to kind of say to people, don't come and bother us because we will kill you. And my attitude is that now's the time to be firm. And we've got a great weapon on our side, and that is freedom and liberty. And it's got those two concepts have got the capacity to defeat ideologies of hate.
It's a global movement. It's a global ideology. And if there's any mistake that's ever made in these circumstances, it's if people are surprised that it's tough to fight, because you're up against an ideology that's prepared to use any means at all, including killing any number of wholly innocent people.
The principles enshrined in the Human Rights Conventions, whether that the UN one or the EU one or even the American Constitution, that everyone has the right for a free trial. You have to have access to lawyers, and you have to be protected by the law, and you have to know what are the allegations against you. So all of them gone over just overnight because someone decided, there is a big threat, and everything finished. We see ourselves at the forefront of defending Islam, defending Muslims, and also defending the liberal values, the value of freedom, the value of liberty, the value of justice, the value of equality before the law. So it is an irony, Islam Channel, we are defending the very Western liberal values.
Yes, he's going to raise everybody when you die. No. But the Hadith and Quran is the same. In the word of God. Hadith, Muhammad Sallallahu I'll tell you what. In the Quran, it doesn't tell you to perform Hajj, not to perform Salah. I've got to answer that. Okay, sure. So how do you perform the 5 times Salah according to the Quran?
Everyone calm down, you're going crazy.
Yes, because listen, I believe in the Quran so much.
Believe in the Quran, we have to believe in the Quran.
Yes.
Allah says in the Quran.
I want to give an answer to what you
said.
We are demonized and vilified, and let them call us what they wish. They call us mad, they call us, extremists and fundamentalists. Those are the very labels which were leveled against the prophets and the great people of the past. So, I'm very proud to have those labels, and I will wear them as medallions on the Day of Judgment.
Well, let's look at some of the comments that you've made or purported to have made. You want to see a mosque on the site of Buckingham Palace. You want to see an Islamic flag flying from 10 Downing Street. People who drink in pubs should be flogged. Are you serious?
Yes, we did say that many of the institutions and many of the kind of buildings could have an alternative use under Sharia. For example, Buckingham Palace could be a mosque. It needn't be, definitely a mosque, but it could be a mosque, it could be a hospital, it could be a place to, for people to have refuge. Similarly, there'll be no alcohol, therefore pubs will be prohibited. But you could have libraries instead.
He loves people filming him, doesn't he? And he'll just say things, but I don't think anybody on MI5 thinks he's a threat, do they? Otherwise, what's he still outside for? Why is he still out? He's a rent-a-quote, isn't he?
He makes some very outlandish statements. Do you actually believe he believes these statements are mosquing about the site of Buckingham Palace and all that jazz?
Oh yeah, totally. Everybody, all of them believe that Islam. It's written in the Quran apparently that Islam is going to be the dominant religion in this country and or in the world. They all absolutely believe it. I'm sure they do.
Sometimes we have to take it as a joke what he says when he says I want a khilafah or I want to establish Sharia here in UK. We have to take it as a joke. We should not take these people serious. Similarly, if Nick Griffin says Britain is going to be free of Islam, no Muslim in this country, he's dreaming.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Ameen. I'm a Muslim, so I believe Allah's law should be supreme around the world. So that's a part of my faith. Do you understand? That is in my belief system. That's in my heart. That there is no better law, no better governance on this earth except for my Lord's. Do you understand? So that's embedded in me anyway. I'm not gonna try and go to the police station and say, hey, what are you doing, man? Sharia law here, let's do this thing. I'm not doing that, but this is what I hold in my heart, but that would make me a terrorist. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And
if you try to promote that.
Yeah, if I try to promote it, and even by inviting people to Islam, and then making them see the way that I see,
how the law can
then all of a sudden I'm an extremist who's building up a terror cell.
Muslims are law-abiding citizens, so it's not a question of obedience of law when you're living in this country. The question that the British society is demanding and is asking of the Muslims is, where does your loyalty, where does your values, and where does your allegiance lie? With your scripture and the people of your scripture, or our values and our people?
Naturally, anyone who's got the same faith as me, I'm naturally bonded to that person. Okay, but yeah, I am British. British is multiculturalism. This is British, what I'm wearing here. This is what I call British. Okay, this beard is British. This is the definition of British that we want to basically propagate. Yeah, this is what you call British.
We as human beings, we are moving towards multiculturalism. Is a fact. Is a move of history. History moved to liberate slavery, to abolish slavery. History moved to stop colonialism, and history moved. Now the move of history is towards multiculturalism. The other faith, the other ideology, is not overseas, is not across the oceans. It is next door. It is next desk. Is your next desk colleague? Is your next door neighbor? Is your shopkeeper, and so on. So we are moving towards that.
Muhammad tell us to believe Jewish and to believe Christian. Okay, what do you believe in, man? What do you believe in? Why do you believe the Jews?
Can I ask you?
Hold on, why do you believe the Jews?
He just shout. That's all he does.
Let me speak. Can I speak? Hold on.
You can't give some facts.
Can I share something?
You don't know anything.
What you're telling me is BBC propaganda. Hold on. Hold on. You don't have a clue. You don't have a clue.
Give me names.
Can I be honest with you? I will tell you something. Listen. Don't say hold on. Can I talk?
Allah is an Arabic word for God.
Allow me to speak, sir, because I'm touching something you don't know nothing of.
La
ilaha illa Allah. Hold on. They don't even know the religion.
Panorama was on a couple days ago, Monday, 3 days ago, and I can't say I'm surprised at all. Here's BBC's website, their Panorama program. They're really hyping up the activists wanting to be a martyr angle, almost like we deserve what we get since we wanted to die kind of angle.
On the night of the 31st of May, Israeli helicopters hovered over the Mavi Marmara. The flotilla had ignored warnings to turn back.
Drama on the high seas. Commandos storm a ship with hundreds of passengers on board.
Dead bodies were piling up, people frantically trying to stem the flow of blood.
They said it was a peace mission bringing aid to the people of Gaza, a claim disputed by the Israelis.
They're trying to kill each and every single one of us. And we were just defending our lives.
Self-defense or excessive force? What really happened that night?
There was one thing that I made clear as a condition for doing the interview, and that was that they put in the program that we did release those commandos after we disarmed them. And that was always very important because I knew with that fact intact, it would be impossible to paint the picture that they did in the end.
Me and another soldier found ourselves alone and we just jumped off the bow into the water.
All 3 Israeli commandos were rescued.
I was there. They were completely surrounded. We actually took them out to the bow of the ship and let them go. One of our guys did get fired at while he was there, but we were taking him out there to let them go. I didn't trust the BBC, so I recorded clandestinely. And I know I don't have editorial control over this, but if there's any one point that I really...
Well, it's the point about we didn't kill the commandos,
Yeah,
we had them in there.
that's-
That will be in, don't worry.
yeah.
That is important for us, because obviously they would say that they felt their lives were in danger, to which the corollary is, well, their lives could have been in danger, but we let them go. I think that's a very strong point.
We let them go. It's a very strong point. That was a very important point, because if we let the commandos go, it's impossible to make the argument that we were trying to kill them.
Navy Commando 13 is on alert for more flotillas to come. The Battle of the Med isn't over yet.
Jane Corbyn reporting there.
Nothing about the 800,000 children in Gaza who were suffering terribly under this blockade, the malnutrition, the UN schools that were bombed in the invasion. I mean, none of these things seemed to matter at all. You know, all we were doing was trying to conduct a political stunt, effectively.
The way forward is to work in peace with people. Churchill once said, talk is better than war. No, jaw. Speaking is better than fighting, is better than war. And if you look at Northern Ireland, there was the argument that the IRA were extremist, and then the problem was solved when you talked to them and negotiated with them. And I think that is the way in which problems of this kind have to be resolved. You have to talk to your enemy and try and work out a way of resolving the problems. And if you did do that, then I think you would not have been caught in this conflict.
We do know how to proceed in this country. We know how that when you demonise somebody, and we demonised the Irish community, we didn't allow Gerry Adams' voice to be broadcast on the BBC. We said we will never negotiate with terrorists, and in the end that's precisely what we did. We negotiated with quote-unquote terrorists. So the language has to change. It has already begun to change. People have said that we have to have a negotiated settlement in Afghanistan which includes the Taliban. And if that's the case, that like it or not, as unpalatable as it may seem, as hard as it may seem, negotiations with people from Al-Qaeda are necessary for a solution.
We see a movement within the Muslim community that is positively constructing itself as an integral and positive part of European and British society. We're seeing the mainstreaming of all types of professionals who will hold weight and are holding weight in public discourse and policy discussion, who have a positive message for an inclusive, multicultural society. And I think these sets of individuals will play a big role in bringing us on from now this worrying time post-September the 11th.
This Earth, this planet, is very rich, is wide enough. It has everything for us to live together and to share the resources. But it becomes very narrow, very small, very tiny for us to fight over it. The way forward is people to work together. I think people of faiths, different beliefs, of no faiths, they have to come together, and we have to combat the danger, which is a danger to all of us. Now, if you go through Heathrow Airport, the security and the scrutiny you go through it's applied to everyone. We don't want that. We want to live in liberty. We want to live in cohesion. We want to live, and this is the fight we have to take it. We should not leave it to politicians and to parliaments and to armies to sort it out. I think people from the civil society, from different faiths and no faiths, they should come together, work together. We have to identify, and we should not surrender to the myths and to the propaganda of the Rupert Murdoch media.
The media can do one of two things. Either it can illuminate the world, either it can tell people about different cultures, different civilizations. It can actually inform people about this. Or it can turn the light inwards and make people worried, make people fearful, make people xenophobic, make people feel that they're under threat from what's going on in the outside. And unfortunately, the British tabloid media does the latter. And there's very little, and I think increasingly little, media that does the former.
BBC, shame on you! BBC, shame on you! Not going to take it anymore! Yeah!
Well, we're voicing our opinion about the BBC's latest propaganda, Death in the Med.
In our thousands and our millions! We are all Palestinians! In our thousands and our millions! We are all Palestinians!
You've got a protest there, it's on a Sunday, you've got a handful of people. Are you really hoping to sort of galvanise real sort of change? Do you think people will pay attention to this sort of protest?
You know what, whenever I come to an event like this, if there's one person who gets engaged, one person who meaningfully gets engaged, as far as I'm concerned, that's a success. Of course I'd prefer to have many more people. This isn't, for me, going to a protest is counterproductive unless something comes from the protest.
We say end the siege of Gaza, no more collusion with Israel. In our thousands and our millions, we are all Palestinians.
Oh, you're in a bit of a state again, look.
This is Sean.
Yep. Ladybirds. Quite often we come down and there's cans of lager and bottles of cider that have been left. They aren't opened. They just have a drink with them. I didn't want him to go back, but there's the job situation around here is diabolical, really. But he loved doing his job, and he couldn't get the same satisfaction here.
Did Sean join the army because of the lack of work?
No, it was something he always wanted to do. He wanted a uniform. I get angry because my son's life was forfeited for nothing. He should be here. He should be kicking his heels up. He should be looking after his son. He should be living his life. And unfortunately, it was cut short.
It was politics. So, am I bitter at the policeman that arrested me? No. Am I bitter at the government? Yeah. It just shows what you can get away with if you frighten people often enough to get away with locking somebody up for 18 months. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing to have to say to criminals, you know, I was in there with some serious cons, you know what I mean, who was up there for murder charges, £1 million robberies, and they go, what are you in here for? You know, you have to sheepishly say, yeah, firearms. And then, what was that about? And then you tell them, paintball, and they go having a laugh at you. What are you doing here? Do you know what I mean? And you see, I knew it was a political thing, but, you know, this is something that there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing that I could do about it because, I mean, you're fighting the whole judiciary. The police always have a difficult job to do, and they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. And I'm a strong believer in law and order. As a Muslim, I have to be a strong believer in law and order. But all I want is the law to be fair. This is what I want. I want the law to be fair. And unfortunately, they have pressures from on high to do whatever their seniors tell them. There are times I look at my kids and, you know, my daughter especially, she was a little bit clingy when I first came out because it was like, I could see it psychologically. She was wondering, am I going to be there tomorrow? Do you know what I mean? It's like, where you going, Dad? She knows I'm going to work, but where you going, Dad? Oh, what time are you going to be back, Dad? What, you know? And for my kids, I'm extremely angry and bitter because what they had to go through was horrible. I've been in the building trade for 26 years and now I'm studying to do the knowledge, to do black cab driver, so that's what I'm doing now. I decided to do the knowledge because Well, two main reasons. I love driving, and to be gas bagging all day with people is it's perfect. I'm a strong character, and so I've rebuilt my life by just doing what I've always done. Just getting up, going to work, coming home, playing with my family, playing with the kids. I got straight back into the saddle. You know, it's just like, I mean, this was an episode in my life, and it was an education.